his army rose up and returned to the land of the Philistines.
Very good. All right, I restarted it because I did not have the sound on,
Oh.
and I realized that when I upload it, like the first minute or two, there'll be no sound, and people will be like, "What?" and then they'll stop watching the video. So hopefully we have sound right now. Thank you very much, Barb. That's Genesis chapter 21.
I'm not doing it again.
Right, 22 to 34. All right, so this is Abimelech 2.0.
Philpol.
And now we find out he has a commander of his armies named Philpol. All right, so here we see you have your handout. Now, why, oh why, would Abimelech say, swear to me that you will not deal falsely with me? Why would Abimelech worry about Abraham dealing falsely with him? Do you remember the first go around?
Was he the one where they,
Abimelech?
was that where he lied about being it was his sister?
Yeah, well, a half-truth.
Yes.
Because they are half-sister, half-brother.
Right.
This is before the law outlawed that sort of thing. And yes, he did lie or omit the truth.
Yes.
And of course, then the Lord appeared to Abimelech and in a dream and said, if you touch this woman, you're going to die.
Yes. You
and your household. Right? And so when he woke up, he's told his servants, and then they went straight to Abraham and said, what have you done? Right? And then, of course, Abraham was operating out of fear. And, of course, the Lord settled the whole situation and fixed the curse that he had put upon even the women of the household, and closed their wombs and all that other stuff. And so Abraham prayed for Abimelech and his household, and they were healed. And everything was fine, except now we're seeing that Abimelech is dealing with Abraham out of fear, right? Because he knows that Abraham's God, Yahweh, or Elohim, is... that's my phone tweeting at me. He's afraid that this God will return and strike him or his household. So he makes him swear here by a couple of things. First, that he won't deal falsely with him. No more lies, right? Just shoot straight with me. Or don't shoot, please, but just be honest. And the second thing is now he brings up that he will not cheat. That's the word he uses in the Hebrew, that you will not cheat my seed, which is translated his son, or his progeny, his sons, so forth, right? That my lineage, my line. And then, of course, they cut a covenant, and he swears. He said, look, I've been so nice to you. I've let you go around the land, graze wherever you want to go in this land that you're sojourning in. And so, but yet at the same time, Abimelech and Philpol remember that Abraham, by the sword of Yahweh, or by the help of Yahweh, has defeated a number of kings in the area with a few hundred men. And so Abimelech knows that the God of this area, as far as from what he can tell, he may not believe he's the God of heaven and earth and the only God, but Abraham's got a powerful God. Militarily, in terms of curses, in terms of divine intervention.
Because he spoke to him.
Yes, and this is a whole new experience for Abimelech, and so he does not want Abraham. He's probably heard the rumors that the land has been promised to him as well. So he's trying to get out ahead of this thing, right, as best he can. So don't cheat me, don't cheat my son, don't lie, and don't rob my progeny, right? So he's afraid of Abraham because of Elohim. And of course, then this kind of sets up throughout the entire scriptures in the Old Testament this whole idea of the fear and dread of the Lord, right? Or this idea that it's the Lord who wins the battles. It's the Lord who fights before, and you see that throughout the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses, and of course going into the period of the Judges, And then finally in the period of the kings, it's the Lord who fights and wins the battle. So, and he often does this by throwing whole armies into hysteria, where they're either running for their lives out of just uncontrolled fear, or they even start striking one another. They're so delirious with fear, right? All right. Now, next in this section, now there's this dispute over a well. Okay, so Abraham dug a well, and one of Abimelech's servants sees the well. Well, that area, what is modern day called the Negev, is that, oh gosh, here we go, artwork.
Map time.
Okay. Okay, so if this is
So the well wasn't on
Mediterranean.
his land?
well, I mean, he's allowed to sojourn there.
Okay.
And it's a desert region. This entire, okay, so here's the Nile,
So they have to go where there's water.
right? And then here's the Red Sea or something like that. And there's this triangle shape, and then going up here is into what we would later call Israel, right? And this is kind of the Jordan Rift, the Jordan River going down to the Dead Sea. This isn't to scale, people. Okay, more like this.
You want your initials on
All
there.
right, so Beersheba is going to be like right about there, we'll say, and Jerusalem's about right there, we'll say, you got the idea, right? The Negev is this whole area that's like southern. This isn't cellular biology from biology 101 in high school, right? It's this area right in here, maybe here too, down into here. It's this area of like southern desert. So if you want to know what this climate is like, and they grow citrus there and everything else, it is very much like Southern California.
Oh.
So if you look on a map of like San Diego, and you go all the way over to the other side, that's where it's running right through here, right? Or maybe it's more like something like that. I don't know.
It's right north of the Sinai, so they would be singing Surfing Sinai.
Yeah. so Beersheba's about right here. He digs a well, and because this is very much like Southern California's climate is what? Anybody been to Southern California?
It's warm.
Just go by the song, but don't rain.
Yes, well, Florida's warm too, but what's the difference between Florida
not
and...
humid.
No, it's humid. It's
Right,
dry.
it's a desert.
Yeah.
It's a desert, right? And there's a comedian back from the 80s that's got a great routine that he talks about. He goes, why are we giving billions of dollars to aid the people who live in the desert? Why don't we just hire a bunch of U-Haul trucks and take them to where the food is,
I've
right?
heard that. That's the screaming guy.
Yes,
Sam
Kinison.
Kinison.
Yes, he's very harsh.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating
But
for him as a
accurate.
Christian.
But
He's accurate about the desert, right? So there you need water in the desert, right? So he digs a well, because no water in the desert means certain death, right?
Yeah.
All right. It's something we take for granted because we just turn on the spigot and
We get water.
we get water in multiple rooms in the house, bathrooms, kitchens, outside spigots, inside spigots. There, it's everywhere.
Basement.
Right? Yeah.
When you don't want it.
Yeah. So it can even flow from your pipes when they burst. It's not good. All right. So, anyways, so he's dug this well, but a servant has dealt falsely with Abraham now, and has seized the well. And so now there's a situation where Abraham uses 7 ewe lambs as a witness. And the name in Hebrew is Beersheba, or often what appears in other parts of the scripture known as Sheba. Beersheba means the well of 7. And he says, so I'm giving these to you, because, nobody's just giving away a bunch of livestock for free. I don't know if you've ever got that deal before. I've never gotten a deal like that.
Got a puppy for free.
He's given away 7 animals, and he says, let these be a witness that this is mine. And of course, Abimelech's got no problem with this. Hey, no problem. So the name of the place becomes Beersheba. Now, historically speaking, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Beersheba's about right here, and Dan is way, way up here. And often you will see in the Old Testament, during the times of the kings, especially after the 12 tribes have entered in, or even, probably even during the time of the judges too. I'd have to think about it for a little bit. But you get the idea. Is you'll hear a saying from Dan to Beersheba. From the north to the south, this is like the core territory of the 12 tribes, on both sides of the Jordan Rift, right? Because some of the tribes are over here on what's modern day Jordan. Right?
Are these names still the same?
Dan to Beersheba, yeah.
Okay.
Is it on that map?
Yeah.
There's different maps, so yeah. All right, so you'll hear the phrase from Dan to Beersheba. Think northern city to southernmost city. Today, it's kind of the capital of the Negev. It's the second largest city in the region, Jerusalem being larger in the modern context. Initially, the city of Beersheba was assigned to the tribe of Judah, because remember, Judah is the southern tribe along with Benjamin, and you go further north, you get to the other 10 tribes. Later, it would be reassigned to Simeon. That's a long story. We're not going to go into it. But the reason why I bring this up, because as we continue to go through our Christology study, as the Lord reveals himself to new generations of people throughout the Old Testament, Beersheba is going to come up again and again and again and again, both with the patriarchs, both with Isaac coming up and Jacob coming up, but also with the prophets and the kings. Beersheba is a very, very important city that constantly is playing a role in the Old Testament, all right?
So at the time when he dug a well, was it already a city?
Nope, there's nothing there. So Abraham founded Beersheba.
Wow.
That's another way to say it, right? And to this day, it's a pretty large city. There are, I think, 100 plus 200,000 people who live there.
Wow.
So Abraham founded
Fort Wayne
Beersheba.
size.
Must still have water.
That well's still
They've
running.
expanded. They have multiple wells now. Yeah. So anyways, all right. All right. Here's another highlight of the end of this, and I have nothing much more to say about this, and we're going to get to the juicy part here in a moment. Is for the first time the name appears, because we're all about names in Christology class. We have a new name, El Olam, which means everlasting God, and that appears at the end of chapter 21. Verse 33, Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. Okay?
Oh, that's
so.
Okay.
So he gives the Lord a new name, El Olam, right? Because he's witnessing to the covenant when he swears that he will do no wrong to the descendants or to the seed and to the progeny of Abimelech, because Abimelech has allowed him to live in safety in the land and has not brought war to Abraham's doorstep like the king of Sodom did and the king of Gomorrah and so many others on the other side of the Jordan Rift. All right? Any questions about the end of chapter 21? No? All right, so let's get to the juicy part here. All right, chapter 22, part 1. I don't think we're going to be able to cover this whole thing, and so I put part 1 because I'm expecting that we're going to do even more with this, even from the New Testament next week, where the type becomes fulfilled in Christ, but we're going to hint at it this week. All right, so does someone want to read? We can take turns because there's quite a bit here. Let's do chapter 22, verses 1 through 5.
After these things, God tested Abram and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. He said, Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah.
Moriah, yeah.
Offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw his young men. Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you.
Okay. Typology. Father and son. Abraham and Isaac. New Testament. Who and who?
The Father and the Son.
Right, specifically the first and second persons of the Trinity. Absolutely. So you're about ready to see in the Old Testament, in the book of Moses, first book of Moses, a glimpse of the proto-evangelion, the first appearance of the gospel. Remember, you shall bear a seed and an offspring, and he shall crush and or bruise the head of the serpent. All the way in Genesis chapter 3. Now we're going to see more information, this time in the generation of Abraham, regarding this future Zerah seed, right? And that is in the typology that's so powerful here in Genesis chapter 22. Yes, go for it.
Why did he say, take your son, your only son?
Yes. Okay, so
Because if he knows he only has the one son, but
in the creed, it's the covenant son because he
Okay.
has
Ishmael.
Does have
Ishmael.
That's right.
But remember, who carries the messianic
Yes,
line?
yeah.
It is not Ishmael that carries the Zerah.
Right.
It is Isaac. God is going to bless Ishmael. He's going to give him multiple kings and lines of kings that come from his body.
Yeah.
He's going to give him land and wealth, and he's going to be blessed for Abraham's sake, Moses writes. But he is not the child of the promise, the Zerah, the seed, right? Isaac is. Now notice here, how does the Elohim specifically refer to the relationship of Abraham and Isaac? Take your son, your only son, Isaac, and then he says, whom you love,
Yeah.
and go to the land of Moriah. All right? So, typology. Someone look up John chapter 3, verse 35. You got that, Chuck?
Yeah.
Kenny, can you look up John chapter 5, verse 20?
Where are you getting those?
They're right there. They're
Second
right
bullet down.
Right here.
Okay.
Yeah, John 5, verse 20. It's right on your
Paper.
fourth line down on your handout.
5.
Okay, I see.
520, yep. 5 semicolon 20.
To be exact.
And then 335 is the other one.
What was I get first?
Actually, that's a quarter.
But
So-
you are correct.
Huh?
I'm like,
Barb's correcting.
I often say I'm like Rush Limbaugh. I'm correct 99.9% of the time, but I allow room for error.
Yeah. And she gave it to you.
Lord, don't strike me down. Please. All right.
You ready for 35?
That always cracks me up when you used to say that. Yes, read 335.
335. Let me find it again. The Father loves the Son and has given all things into his hand.
Okay. John 5:20.
Okay. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing. And greater works than these will he show him, so that you may marvel.
Yep. All right. So that's just 2 examples, just from one book. I could literally give you hundreds of examples where it's very clear in the New Testament of the kind and the quality of the relationship between the Father and the Son. And both from the Father to the Son and the Son to the Father, it is one based entirely on love, agape, self-sacrificing love. All right? All right. Put that in your...
Noodle.
Put that in your noodle, and now let's go back 22 centuries earlier, all right, to Abraham and Isaac. So Elohim, who is which person of the Trinity?
Father.
Huh? Huh?
Father.
Second,
Jesus.
yes, Jesus.
Okay.
Well, but
all in-
multiple. Because it's
Wait. All in favor. Who's speaking here? There's not two of them speaking simultaneously. Who's speaking here? Your vote. Is it the first person of the Trinity or the second person of the
First.
Trinity?
I think it's the
First. You have
It's,
to pick.
it's plural. Eam is plural. I would say first.
There's only one speaking here.
I say
Second.
Second,
first.
first.
Whereabouts are you?
I'll go.
Is it take your son whom you love? Who's speaking there? First person of the Trinity or
God
second?
the Father.
Well, I'm gonna say the first, but I figured it'll be the second.
It's the second.
'Cause
It's Christology.
All around there.
Right, it's the Christology. The voice of the Ancient of Days has not yet appeared in Genesis. It's always the Son. That's why our course is Christology. It's the second person of the Trinity revealing himself. And this will become more and more clear, right? So from the Garden of Eden, the one who walks with Adam and Eve in the garden is the second person of the Trinity. The one who reveals himself, calls Abraham, covenants with him, and is now telling him to take his son, his only son whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, which I will show you, is the second person of the Trinity, right?
I guess
So-
I should have just looked at the title of our class.
Don't cheat.
The title of our class is Christology
Well,
in the Old Testament. So
If you ask 99, I'll say 90, let's allow a few percent. 95% of Christians, who is the God that keeps appearing in the Old Testament, they will tell you it's the Father.
Yes.
It's not.
I know, it
It's the
sounded
Son.
so much like the Father.
Yes. Well, we'll get
But
to
that's-
him.
yeah.
We'll get to him
And
momentarily.
he does so many
Remember, the
things with
Father
that.
sends the Son into the cosmos. That's John chapter 1. We've been studying that on Sunday mornings, right? All right, so the Father sends the Son. Where is the Son? The divine Logos, as John calls him, the Word. He's the Word made flesh. Well, this is pre-incarnate appearance of the second person of the Trinity sent into the cosmos. It's not the Father who comes into the cosmos. It's the Son being sent, right? Beginning with Genesis all the way through Revelation. All right, so notice here that this is, and offer him. What? Offer, and the word there, and Abraham knows exactly what's going on. Offer him is the word of sacrifice in Hebrew. And offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. What?
Yes.
Wait, you promised me this son. I've waited 20 years for this kid, and now you're saying slay him and burn him.
Oh,
Yeah, I like
And
So-
he's little.
Well, he's about 13 at this point.
Well, it's still little.
So we have here a test, right? Now, the scripture is very clear that there's a difference between, I'll write on Egypt because they don't care. All right, between testing and tempting. All right, another poll.
I'm not.
Does
answering.
God tempt or does he test? What do you think?
No
Test.
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 He always
test.
sends us little tests.
All right. Yes, he tests, right? The Lord tempts no one, the scripture says. Who does the tempting?
Satan.
Satan. The purpose of tempting, although they may seem the same, is the outcome is for evil purposes. The purpose of testing, the motive is the exact opposite. The purpose of the test is for a good outcome and the strengthening of that person's faith. Right? All right. And we'll talk about next week what the authors in the New Testament talk about this specific situation in regard to testing versus tempting. We'll get there in part 2.
Why would you bring up tempting?
We'll get there in part 2.
He's
So
sending
I'm laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
okay.
because some people would say here, just very quickly, some people would say here that just God asking him to do this is a sign that God is not good. Because the emotional trauma that was put upon Abraham and Isaac at that point, who only a God who does evil would even put that into your mind.
Yeah.
So the accusation is that God is not good. This is causing psychological, emotional trauma to them, right? And you could see how people would say that, right, from a
Yes.
human perspective.
Yes.
But God is not doing that. That's what Satan would do. What the Lord is doing is he's testing for a positive outcome. And we're going to get to why all that is here in a moment.
Well, I can see where the second person of the Trinity, pre-incarnate, would be the one that says, take your son, your only son that you live, because it's
Love.
Yeah,
That too.
and then go kill him.
Yeah.
No, that you love, because it's Jesus saying that, where it seemed like God the Father would be out of place at that point, because he's showing what the two are, the Father and the Son. He's actually the Son, so
Yeah.
the Father is going to be saying that to him.
The Father sends the Son as the primary communicator. There are rare times in the scripture where you hear the voice of the divine majesty. And that is always to witness to the Son. And we'll get to that later on, right? And then even when at times when the voice comes, Jesus says that voice was not for my benefit, but for your benefit, so that you may know that he is the one who has been sent by the Father into the world, right? For the very perfect purpose of sacrificing the Son, right? But Isaac will be spared, whereas Jesus will not be spared, right?
Just because we know.
Yeah,
But even
yeah,
in
of course, we know.
But even in
4,200 years later,
Yes.
we know.
But even
Yes.
as a sparing, because the ram was caught in a thicket, there was
Oh, hold on.
Man, we haven't even got to Mariah yet.
Whoa, reel that in.
Chuck, you're giving out the.
All right, let's keep going here.
But we
I know
love
you guys
you
are
anyway.
excited. You're excited. All right.
Okay, but
So,
you were bringing up the burnt offering, which is...
well, hold on. We're gonna get there. We're
I
gonna
know,
get there.
You're right there where you're at.
Okay, so Abraham's faith is being tested, whether or not the object of his love is going to be withheld or not. Right? Now remember, we are to fear, love, and trust in God above all things. But the human heart, as one theologian, not in our camp, but this is probably maybe one of the wisest things he ever said. The human heart, John Calvin, sorry to all you Lutherans, I'm going to bring up John Calvin. John Calvin rightly noted that the human heart is a perpetual idol factory, right? Instead of worshiping the true God, we set up men or we set up somebody else to be God, right? Don't worry about this person, place, or thing, the noun, right? Who are you to worship? Fear, love, and trust in above all things. Yahweh, Elohim,
Yes.
El Olam, the everlasting God, right? That's who our attention is supposed to be on, not the person of your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, pastor, parishioners,
Cat.
whoever, right? It's all about God, right? Because men fail, right? All right, so he's being tested to see whether he will withhold the object of his love or not. But notice, what does Abraham do? He's going to saddle that donkey, and the very next morning he's moving on. It's like, oh, okay. This is also the Son himself is tested in the Garden of Gethsemane. Remember, we're moving up on Holy Week, and Monday, Thursday, he leaves the eastern gate, and he crosses the Kidron Valley, and he climbs up to the Mount of Olives. And what is on the top of Mount Olives? The Garden of Gethsemane. Everyone falls asleep but Jesus, and Jesus prays his high priestly prayer, John chapter 17, which we'll get to in Sunday school class in a few weeks here, in which he prays, "Let this cup pass me by."
Yes.
Because nobody wants to be falsely accused, arrested, struck, spit on, have your name slandered, and hang naked on a cross by nails after being whipped almost to death, right? Where do I sign up for that? No, let this cup pass me. In his human nature, he's crying out for mercy. But then he says, what? Not my will,
But yours.
but your will be done. Thy will be done, right? All right, so Jesus himself is tested And even the writer says he's sweating so profusely that he's sweating blood. Right?
Yes.
I guess so. I'd probably be peeing my pants too.
Yes,
But
yes.
so because there's been so many martyrs down through the age, but you don't know what you're getting into unless you've seen something like that. And Jesus, of course, being fully God, even knows exactly what's going to happen to him. So his humanity is crying out, but he passes the test, right? All right, so now let's talk about Moriah. The land of Moriah is going to be like this vicinity area right here, because in this, what do you think is there today?
Well, that's Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, yes. All right, now we've talked about this before. Jerusalem, I'm going to write on Egypt again because I don't care. Sorry.
Mariah sounds like a witch.
Uh,
I'm sorry, but I've watched a lot of movies and they use Mariah as a long-haired woman and she's kind of odd. I'm sorry.
I know this looks weird, but I think there's another one over here. Okay, so Kidron Valley, what's the Hebrew word? Why am I forgetting? I'm getting too old for this stuff.
No.
So there's a spot here that's called Zion, and Moriah's right here, the top of two hills. The city of David is right here. The king's palace is here, and this is where the temple is going to be built, right? The Kidron Valley, Mount of Olives, and then I forget the name of this over here. And then this is Gehenna. Wait, is it? No, it's not Gehenna. It's
Gethsemane?
No, it's the place where they burned all the trash. It was the dump. They threw everything into the valley and they just
You
burned
said the
it.
word, yeah, you mentioned that. before.
Anyways, that Kidron Valley is where the tombs are at today. If you go in the Kidron Valley, there's all these stone tombs, thousands and thousands and thousands of stone tombs, right? And so anyways, that is Moriah. It's the hill that later David will buy, I forget, from a Jebusite. I can't remember. I think he was a Jebusite. Was he a Jebusite? I can't even remember his name. Oh, I'm losing so much, my brain. Anyway, he buys this threshing floor, and then he gathers all of the stuff to build the temple, but Nathan the prophet from the word of the Lord said, you are not allowed to build it because you are a man of blood, because David literally killed with his own hands hundreds and hundreds and
What's a
hundreds.
threshing floor?
Okay, so it's going to be a giant flat stone, all stone, and they bring in the wheat and they winnow it. They throw it up into the air on a windy day, and the chaff separates from the kernel, and the chaff blows to one side, and then they get a pile of grain, and then that's their harvest. So
That's after they beat it.
What?
That's after they beat the stalks, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the entire process.
We had a Bible study.
We always had International Harvester growing up.
Oh, sure.
I don't know what they did. I'm sure they probably did, but they did. That was part of the process, was winnowing, right?
Yeah.
When Jesus says later in the Gospels, the winnowing fork is in his hand,
Yeah.
and the chaff will be gathered up and